Hello friend, my name is Curie and today we are going to be talking about the game Roommates. Roommates is an indie visual novel released in 2014 by Winter Wolves, and it follows the story of Max and Anne. Max is your stereotypical bad boy that wants to drop out of college to pursue his dream of becoming a famous musician, while Anne is a studious bookworm that's pretty shy and is looking at college as an opportunity to branch out. They're both freshmen at an unnamed college, but they're living in an on-campus dorm called Latin House, where they meet a motley crew of housemates that proceed to turn their lives upside down. That was really cheesy. This was an extremely well-written visual novel, and I say that as someone who has not only played a lot of visual novels, but is pretty damn stingy when it comes to the story. There were multiple routes to take, so you could make whatever story you wanted. If you wanted to have a romance story with one of the characters, you had a handful to pick from. And if you didn't want a romance story, then the game didn't punish you for it. In fact, they actually provided some supplemental characters that didn't have any sort of a romance option. That way you didn't accidentally just stumble onto one. And each character was completely different from the last. There's the sexy minx that can teach you how to loosen up, the gamer that likes sticking to rules and regulations, the bad boy musician, the artist that will get you to embrace your creativity, the laid-back hippie that loves animals, the shy girl. The list goes on. And it's not just that they're diverse, but they have plenty of their own opinions. And at first, I thought this was just like the writer's way of projection, you know, sort of like what happened with Don't Take It Personally, Babe, and those weird 12-channel segments. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought that this was just the writer's way of creating three-dimensional characters. TLDR, it's a well-rounded cast of people that have plenty of personality to provide so you can have a really good story no matter what path you choose. Also, no matter how you play the game, the story wraps itself up very nicely. It doesn't just stop like a lot of visual novels do, but it leads up to the ending, and when they come around to it, you get the sense of closure that's required. While this was a very fun game overall, there were some major issues that bugged me. This plays like a normal visual novel, but at the start of each week you can set out your schedule so you can take up various jobs, you can start partaking in recreational activities, you can study, you can take a nap, stuff like that. Different activities give you different stats, such as improving your reflecting skill or improving your physical well-being. And because characters require different stats to be at a higher level, it's pretty important to know what activities will give you what stat boost. However, this game doesn't explicitly tell you what to do, so if you don't click on that little question mark in the upper left-hand corner of the screen, you're just going to be stuck thinking that you can't control what your character does. I didn't realize what the schedule was until it was too late to raise any of my stats in the first playthrough, I think, maybe the second. Also, there seemed to be something you needed to do for some of the characters in order to get their special romantic ending, and I can't, for the love of God, figure out what those things are. There were a few characters where I blew the stat requirements out of the water. I had them at like 90% or 100% in terms of affection, and I still just got the normal ending. Considering there were characters that I didn't particularly feel like spending any more time with than I had to, it seems a little unfair to program a game where you need to interact with seemingly irrelevant characters in order to get some special ending with the character you're actually interested in. Other than those two grievances, I have nothing to complain about in terms of the gameplay. It had plenty of options to choose from, such as windowed or full screen mode. You could choose to skip over text you've already read. There are a lot of decisions you can make so that the story is customized to what you want as the player. And there is the resource management aspect of the game where you need to watch your money and manage your energy levels and know when to sleep. It does play a lot like your typical visual novel / dating simulator, so if you're familiar with those types of games, then you'll be very comfortable just getting into the swing of things in Roommates. This game had a very good art, and I don't just mean the art was nice, but I mean it was really good. The character designs were unique and memorable, with maybe the exception of Anne and Butch, but that's just because they were intentionally created to be plain. The others definitely have their own style about them, but it never comes off as flashy or tacky. And this also applies to very minor characters such as Max's bandmate Memphis and Anne's classmate Roxanne. Roommate's world design left little to be desired as well. In my very first game review, I complained how Ristorante Amore had these weird backgrounds where it really just looked like they took pictures of rooms and then put them through the oil painting filter in Photoshop, and that really annoyed me because it looked like hell. But Roommates not only had original artwork for each and every room, but the art is actually really good. I felt that the room sizes were a little weird because if it's on-campus housing, I would just assume that, you know, everything would be uniform, everyone would have the same sized rooms, but apparently that wasn't the case, as Anne had a very, very tiny room, whereas Rakesh had an enormous room. But in the end, I just really didn't care. The only real nitpick I have with the world design is when you go back as Anne to your family home, you can take a guest with you. And if you go with the Dominic route, you pretty much you are familiar with Dominic's room, so when you go home and the guest room is just Dominic's bedroom but mirrored, I mean, come on, you could have changed the bed color or something. As for the quality outside of world design, I feel like it could have been a teensy-weensy a little bit cleaner. If you play it in windowed mode, everything is very sharp and nice, but if you put it into full screen mode like I did when I needed to get gameplay footage, there was a noticeable quality dip. The menu and text bars got kind of fuzzy, the lines on some characters would get pixelated, and there were a few times where a character would kind of get blurry. And at first, I thought it was just my eyes getting tired from playing the game for an entire day, but then I realized that all of the other characters were fine. Other than that, I have really no complaints. It comes off a little amateurish, but this is an indie game, so I'm not expecting something that's super polished. All in all, this was an extremely fun game that I enjoyed playing. There is no voice acting for me to comment on, but it had a pretty damn good soundtrack that not only was well created, but helped improve the atmosphere in many of the game's scenarios. Like I said, I do wish they included a tutorial when it came to the scheduling or just the game in general, because I was really peeved about not realizing until way later that I could actually mess with my schedule and, you know, appeal to whatever character I was going for. But now that I know it's there, I can utilize it to my advantage, and it's actually pretty fun to do the whole resource management thing. It's still super fun to play with a ton of replay value, as every time you embark on a new path, it's like a totally different game. However, I can't tell you how long it took me to get through the game the first time because I wasn't really paying attention to the clock. I was so engrossed with the game that I just lost track of time. I think I started at like 2 in the afternoon, and I took a couple like 3-hour breaks, and I think I finished it at 3 a.m. But I'm honestly not sure. But what I suggest is to a friend. Obviously. If you like visual novels, I am like 85% sure that you'd really love this one. It's $25 on Steam, which is a lot for me, so I don't know if I would buy it again, but if I made a normal amount of money where $25 wasn't over a quarter of my monthly earnings, then hell yes, I would buy it again in a heartbeat. Anyways, those are my thoughts on the game Roommates. Have you played it? Are you gonna play it? Is Max your husbando? Let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, you can find all of my social media in the description. Happy unbirthday, and I will see you later. Bye! Want to create a run on its own, create a very small nick or a teeny tiny hole and just pull on it until you're satisfied. You can also create small holes in the runs by cutting individual threads. That's kind of what I like about Japanese media, so that didn't bother me. My complaints actually lie within the writing, because there are a lot of parts that really just don't make sense. At no point in the movie